So you're good at this.
I'm just nasty.
That emoji where you're sticking your tongue out in an angry way. What? How do you spell that?
Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time, this is Kristin Brey with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada.
Hello, Wisconsin. Thursday morning. It's still morning, right? 11:06?
Definitely.
How are you doing this morning, Jane Metnair?
I'm a little disappointed because one of the lights in the production room here is out. And I thought that would help. And it's not helping.
Help with what?
Darker is always better.
That's not true.
A little, well,
if you know anything about photography and videography, you need light.
Well, flattering light would be good.
I'm not sure anyone who has ever looked their best under fluorescent tube lights.
It's tough. It's tough.
It is tough.
Anyway, otherwise I'm good.
Good.
Yesterday was just a beautiful day. Today's another beauty.
I know. I'm ready for fall just because it's nice to live in a place that has the changing seasons. But I very much appreciate being able to just walk out of the house without having to think about what am I wearing?
Bundling up.
And getting back into the hooded sweatshirt game. And that's the fun thing about radio is that you don't have to have quite the same work wardrobe as other jobs, as I think a lot of people started to experience during COVID.
Right.
I remember when coming back into real life, and I not only had spent most of 2020 just hanging out at my parents' house, I also had moved from LA to Wisconsin. So my wardrobe was not appropriate.
Taste-wise or just temperature-wise?
Definitely temperature-wise, because I had moved from New York to LA, so I'd gotten rid of my big coats and a lot of the stuff that I would need to live in a colder climate. And then I moved back to an even colder climate. And every fall day, I would look at my wardrobe and be like, what the heck am I gonna wear?
How many layers can I wear?
So it's a little bit better now, but I'm just not a big shopper. And so happy to be on the radio where I can wear a t-shirt every day, which is what I'm wearing today. And then this winter, I'll probably wear a sweatshirt over the t-shirt.
I've been in radio for 41 years. We've always been slobs.
Even with the advent of adding the live stream and cameras, so you can watch us. You can actually see our facial expressions by watching the YouTube live or the Facebook live or the Twitter live on any of the As Goes Wisconsin social
your choice.
handles.
And
it's fun. I would
choice.
say it's entertaining. You get another level of expression if you watch us, but you also are subjected to our outfits then, which may or may not be that fashionable.
Well, and it may destroy some illusions. So again, that's on you.
Oh, well, this story broke, I think it was 2 days ago, and we didn't talk about it yesterday, but now I feel like it's the time to talk about it because it's pretty infuriating. And I think it's infuriating because it feels like, and it's not over, but it feels like an example of a situation where there's going to be zero ramifications just because of who this person is.
Again.
So, as much as we love to kind of complain about the ups and downs of Aaron Rodgers'
quirks.
That's the word that I was looking for. Yes. Overall, I think he hasn't defrauded anyone. So unlike our previous hero, Hall of Famer quarterback, who in his home state, it has become apparent that he has taken $5 million of welfare money.
Government money.
I'm seeing mixed reports. It's either somewhere between $50 and $70 million in federal welfare funds went to Favre, a volleyball complex, and a former pro wrestler in a scandal that has rocked Mississippi. Mississippi, that I should remind everyone, Jackson, Mississippi is having a terrible water crisis where everyone who lives there has to boil their water before they can even touch it. It's brown.
Yeah,
it's
I was gonna
literally
say-
dark
yeah.
brown coming out of. It looks like diarrhea water.
If you haven't seen video of it, you would be horrified.
It's
Can you
also yeah, go
imagine
ahead.
opening up your tap and it's just this brown goo. It's awful.
And meanwhile, it's also the poorest state in the union. It's Brett Favre's home state.
Yep.
And talk about a welfare queen. And so far, I think he's paid it back, but he hasn't paid interest on it.
Which is almost $250,000 in interest.
Yeah, and it's a crime. What him and the former Republican governor, Phil Bryant, was in on it. So what they did by stealing state welfare funds from Mississippi to build a stadium, a volleyball stadium for his daughter, because that's where what Brett Favre's daughter was going.
Yeah, important little side note there, yes.
This is a crime. And I think the FBI is investigating it, but like, I know of some local radio stations that are still going to have no problem putting Brett Favre on the air and paying him for it because he's still a hero, and yet have no problem wanting to prosecute poor people for welfare fraud. It is beyond infuriating. I think Chris Hayes from is it
MSNBC.
He did a clip on this because Brett Favre's trying to say he didn't know, but
Maybe he did.
yes.
Now, we should note, Brett Favre has not been charged with the crime, though our own reporting indicates the FBI is looking into the case. His lawyer insists he was, quote, totally honorable in everything. Favre had no idea that the money was coming from a program for, again, needy families in Mississippi, the poorest state in the union. But one text exchange does appear to highlight that Favre may have had some concerns about what was going on. Here it is, texting, quote, if you were to pay me, is there any way the media can find out where it came from and how much? Question mark. Well, since we're telling you this story on national television, it turns out the answer is yes. There is a way for the media to find out. I mean, even by the standards of a state that I think is very poorly governed by the ruling Republican Party, this is an almost cartoonish scandal. If we're not so devastating. A multi-millionaire football star, a guy who doesn't lack for money, who could, I don't know, give his daughter's school a check. This guy, MAGA Brett Favre, Republican governor, appear to be involved in a scandal with the misuse of federal dollars for the poorest members of the poorest state, diverted to a volleyball facility. Even as then Governor Phil Bryant, of course, preached the gospel of so-called fiscal responsibility.
It's maddening.
It is maddening.
It's maddening because I know there's going to be some people who just shrug their shoulders, and because he was a superstar, won't care. And it's Brett Favre. And this is so bad, especially as literally the people in Jackson, Mississippi are just being left to deal with it.
Well, and as you said, Mississippi already is the poorest state in the country. This state needs help. The citizens of that state need help. And were it anyone else, were it any other private citizen, this wouldn't even be an issue, right?
It probably wouldn't have happened.
Well, that's true too. You want someone
Because
with connections.
what I don't understand is there's also a different part of this where he was taking state money to give speeches that he never gave. And so he's a bad person.
Well, his lawyer, Bud Holmes, told NBC News Favre behaved, quote, totally honorably in everything, unquote, and that there is nothing remarkable about the newly released texts.
How is this honorable?
Because he gave it back after he got caught. Just throwing it out there.
I mean, and do you think there will be any fallout? Do you think everyone will just kind of be like, well, this is a good question. Actually, this is a good question for Dr. Mike when we do our segment at 11:30. Just quick plug, get your questions ready for your life or your lineup, because this is the second week of Dr. Mike Fixes Your Life and your lineup at 11:30. But I'm going to ask him that question as a football question, as a moral question. But I mean, I can totally see he's still going to be a pundit. He's still going to get asked to be on shows. I mean, unless he's in jail. But I mean, it's hard for me to see that kind of justice prevailing here.
Well, look at the NFL just overall, and unfortunately, most pro sports overall, their athletes behave very, very, very badly. Some athletes behave very, very badly, and they might get, a slap on the wrist for 6 games or suspensions, and they claimed that they were going to do this big overhaul, and that's never happened. It's just kind of like, let's just wait and hope it goes away, and then everything will go back to the way that it was.
Yeah.
Right?
And it is, because, I mean, obviously there was always the comparison to what Colin Kaepernick did and lost his job and is the target of so much vitriol
Yes.
in people's minds as far as how dare he, and yet the hypocrisy of both current and former professional athletes, professional NFL players breaking the law, and it's fine. It's fine.
Another person involved in this, she and her son have pleaded guilty to state charges of misspending public money that was supposed to go to poor Mississippians. Again, I don't know what kind of consequences will come from that. Misspending public money it's not theft. It's not qualified as theft, apparently.
I don't know. I mean, I would love to hear from you. Give us a text, 844-967-2789. That's 844-96-PARTY. Does this change your mind about Brett Favre? Was he already, I mean, for some people, I think they already were like, after the dick pic.
Well, thank you.
Scandal.
I always think of as the crock pick, because that's what really mortified me.
I mean, he's been showing his rear end for a while now as far as who he really is, and yet still gets jobs. But this is
This is bad.
This is really bad.
This is bad.
And I just can see the writing on the wall that unless he actually gets charged and convicted, I don't know if ESPN, these radio stations, anyone really cuts ties with him, because they just think that people aren't paying attention, and because they don't think they care about Black people in Mississippi.
Well, I think you said a lot with that last sentence.
I want to scream it in the microphone, but I will not.
We're not that kind of show.
We're not that kind of show.
Right.
Give us your thoughts. 844-967-2789. Give us a call. Give us a text. Or fast forward to 12 minutes from now. If you have a question for Dr. Mike, we will be taking live questions, live phone calls, reading your texts when he is on. But for now, we're going to take a break. This is As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin Brey.
WAUK and the Shaw are the new kids on the radio block, and that block happens to be on Wisconsin Ave, Waukesha. Now is a great time to advertise locally with 540 AM and the Shaw 101 FM, while the ads are inexpensive and the audience is rapidly growing. Sponsorships available for This Week in Waukesha, Raised in the Shaw, or live local music on the weekends. Spring packages starting at just $495 a month. Get started today by emailing info@waukradio.com.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
So all you folks out there, if you haven't registered to vote, register to vote, get ready to vote. There are so many things on the ballot this November at our freedom, our liberty, and our way of life. But we'll get to all of that this evening.
The Paul Revere Show with Mark Thompson airs every Thursday, 7 to 8 p.m. on the Shaw 101 FM and WAUK 540 AM.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. High temperatures reach up to 78 this afternoon under partly cloudy skies. Winds out of the south, 8 to 15 miles an hour. Tonight, lows around 60. 81 tomorrow, a mix of clouds and sun. Low 80s Saturday with a chance for scattered rain showers. Chance for scattered thunderstorms on Sunday. Highs in the upper 70s. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 70 degrees.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin Brey. Great song.
It is a great song. Richie Valens.
We usually try to observe or give credit to either silly or very real things that happen on this day or month. And sometimes that is National Beer Lovers Day, but sometimes it's very serious things that happened in history. One of which is, I realized this by combing through, which I do sometimes, the On This Day calendar for Wisconsin Historical Society.
It's a great site.
They are, I mean, I know 2 weeks ago we had Rob Novak on from Old World, Wisconsin, which is part of the Wisconsin Historical Society, but the depth and breadth of their property, of their museums, their website, like they are such a gem and resource in Wisconsin. And I don't think they always get the appreciation that they deserve as far as how many different places across the state that are part of their big umbrella of the museum. But anyways, you should bookmark that page as far as On This Day in Wisconsin history, because when you go to it, it always pops up on what was today. Sometimes there's not a lot, but on this day in 1832, a treaty was signed between the Ho-Chunk and the United States that stipulated that the Ho-Chunk cede lands lying to the south and east of the Wisconsin River, as well as lands around the Fox River of Green Bay. And so I thought this was interesting because, as we've talked about before, east of the Mississippi, we still have the largest population of indigenous people. And I grew up in Tacoma in Madison, right? Like so many of our names and the influence of where we live is because of Native tribes.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if they're doing it this year, but as I was trying to find more information on what Treaty Day is on this historical, influential day, it didn't seem like they're doing it this year, but you can go back and watch the recording from last year. University of Wisconsin-Madison had a roundtable last year that talks about how treaties become who we are. And it's about an hour roundtable on YouTube, and we'll link it in our blog post for today's episode. But I just thought it was an interesting thing as far as all of us learning more about what could have been had things gone differently. But beyond today being Treaty Day, it is also the start of Hispanic Heritage Month, which goes, I don't know why it goes from September 15th to October 15th. I don't know any other.
We'll research that.
Yeah, I don't know any other Heritage Month that
starts in the middle of the month.
Starts in the middle and goes to the middle. But I think it's interesting because as Wisconsin and also Milwaukee, the Hispanic Latino community is now the largest minority group in Wisconsin, and it's the fastest growing demographic in Milwaukee as of the 2020 census. And so while at least in Milwaukee, the population overall dropped, the Hispanic community actually grew. And I think it's exciting. I mean, I think anyone who went to Mexican Fiesta this year saw that firsthand, because I'm pretty sure their numbers were higher than like Summerfest. Like, it was a party.
Seriously.
I was at Oktoberfest because that was Mike's event, but Mike's event was at the War Memorial, which is right next to the fairgrounds, and it was popping.
Oh, that's great. That is great.
And so I know that there's a bunch of different things in Milwaukee, but I think across the state as far as celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. I know the Oriental Theater is playing Selena.
Oh, it's such a good movie.
At the City Hall, Milwaukee City Hall on Friday, there is going to be like a cultural event from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. But if there's other events that you know of that are throughout the month going to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, text us.
Let us know.
We'll try to get people on here to publicize their event, because that is part of what we try to do in this show, is collaborate and lift up fun events. But if you know of any in your area, whether that's Milwaukee, Wisconsin Rapids, Stevens Point.
We're all over the place.
Wausau, Madison, soon to be Richland Center.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say that or not, but
Too late.
Yeah. So let us know of any events going on in your community to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. Text us at 844-967-2789.
And if nothing else, go patronize one of your local favorite Hispanic themed restaurants.
Absolutely.
Thank goodness we have their food.
I mean, there was just on Milwaukee just had Taco Fest this weekend, and I ate a lot of tacos. It was wonderful.
If we didn't have the influence of all these wonderful cultures affecting our cuisine, we would be nothing but hot dishes.
Well, and that was interesting. The TMJ4 did a piece. I think it came out this morning, talking about different groups because of the rising population in Milwaukee. Different groups that are really focused on education of the growing population. And so the Roberto Hernandez Center at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and the United Community Center are both really focused on education, because it's as much as far as being a vibrant, growing community, but also having members of the community be influential in the community. And I think in the same way we've seen how much of the heritage of German and Polish immigrants imprinted itself into Milwaukee, but also I think specifically German across the state.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason that imprint, that's not a living, changing, evolving tradition as far as like the vibes in the part of our community. And so I think I'm excited to see that population grow and contribute.
Very important voting group as well.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah. That's a very good point. All right. Well, the time has come. We're going to take one more break, and then Dr. Mike will be here to answer your questions about your life, about your fantasy lineup. I have questions about my lineup. I won last week.
You did.
Yeah.
Oh, you must be feeling awfully
one out of 16. So we'll see how he can help me this week. But stay tuned. Send us your questions. 844-967-2789. We'll be right back. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
The Shaw 101 FM, New Berlin's choice for news talk radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUKradio.com.
There's no way those clowns want honest debate. Because if you are a dirty, backstabbing swamp creature, you can't debate. They have no ability to debate.
We take any calls on this show. You know that. I like the fact that we're open to everybody. We don't agree with everybody, and we can debate them, but we let them have their piece. They say their piece.
Listen to Matt Flynn Direct weekday mornings from 6 to 8.
Gotta cut you down.
Speaker Voss, I understand you don't have any children. Does that mean he's been possibly practicing
sex with
contraceptives?
What?
Or is he just less than a man? How do you go through the entire life 3 wives later and no chitlins?
Shooting blanks?
Perhaps.
Pull and pray.
Doubtful.
Not getting any.
Unlikely.
Unable to perform.
More likely.
Paying for it.
I hate to judge.
We don't judge here. We're the devil's advocate.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live.
Tennis star is retiring. First, it was Serena Williams. Today, the announcement is from Roger Federer.
Now I must recognize when it is time to end my competitive career.
Federer is 41. He's won 20 Grand Slam titles.
As many of you know, the past 3 years have presented me with challenges in the form of injuries and surgeries. I've worked hard to return to full competitive form, but I also know my body's capacities and limits, and its message to me lately has been clear.
Federer has not competed since Wimbledon last year, and so, in that sense, his news is not all that surprising. His farewell event will be the Laver Cup in London next week. It's a team event run by his management company. Firefighters again prevented flames from entering a Northern California mountain town and reported major progress against the week-long fire that's become the largest in the state so far. The mosquito fire is burning northeast of San Francisco. I'm Ed Donahue.
Attention! This is a special alert for all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an overpriced auto warranty or no warranty coverage at all. Due to the increase of new and used car prices, repair costs, and the price of gas, people are keeping their cars longer than ever, which is why CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on covered auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can save thousands for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. You could save thousands on future auto repairs. Our specialists are standing by for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-581-9027. Vehicle Protection Plan pricing is at an all-time low. Plus, drivers who purchase this coverage today will receive rental car options, free roadside assistance, and free towing. Call 800-581-9027 now for your free quick quote. That's 800-581-9027. What do you have to lose? Call 800-581-9027. Again, 800-581-9027.
For Civic Media, I'm Jane Madnair with your headlines. 4 staff members at the Lawrence School in Watt arrested and could face charges after an allegation of child abuse. The school serves as a child care center for children as young as 6 months old. The Waukesha Police Department says officers served a search warrant at the school Wednesday morning and is seeking out other potential victims. 3 of those in custody could face charges of failure to protect. A 4th person booked into the Waukesha County Jail with charges of physical abuse of a child being referred to the Waukesha County DA's office. The school also serves as a collaboration site with the Waukesha School District where 4K classes are taught during the school year. Wednesday, the district said the Lawrence School will be closed for the foreseeable future. The Brewers lost to the Cardinals Wednesday 4-1. They'll host the Yankees tomorrow at 7:10. You're listening to The Shaw, 101 FM, WAUK 540 AM.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
Is your love life a fantasy? Having issues with your fantasy football roster? Helping with football and your love life. Here's your new best friend, Dr. Mike.
Because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
That is right. On As Goes Wisconsin on Thursdays at 11:30, we are joined by Dr. Michael McCutcheon, who is a psychologist, a lecturer, co-founder of Wanderlust Careers. He's been featured on NPR and in the New York Post and in Washington Post. He is a distinguished teacher. He tackles topics like relationships, fitness, time management, sex, parenting, financial goals. And additionally, he's won 10,000 fantasy football leagues and loves to help people make easy, free money on DraftKings and FanDuel. And he's also been my best friend for 15 years. So in this segment, we take your calls, we take your texts, and you can ask him questions about your life or your lineup. And thus, Dr. Mike fixes your life and your lineup. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. So good to see you both. How are you two doing?
Can we hear you?
Oh.
Mike, do you have your volume up there?
Do I?
So?
Mm-hmm. Can you hear him?
I cannot.
Mike. We should have done a
How about now?
check
Is it better?
before we brought you on.
Is that better? Is that any better? No?
Maybe we need you to call.
All right.
Can always do that too, Dr. Mike.
Let me try this.
And so in the meantime, I'm going to start asking some of the questions. And so we are going to try to get Dr. Mike on the phone instead. But you look great. On the Zoom, you look great. So we had some questions ahead of time. And the first one is a career question. And it says, "Hey, Dr. Michael, I'm a 27-year-old guy, and I just feel like I'm constantly behind in life. So many of my friends are further along in their careers, and I'm so jealous. Even though I'm in grad school at an elite institution, everyone I grew up with is making more money than me, and it's really hurts my self-confidence seeing people my age passing me by. Any advice on how to either catch up or deal with these negative feelings about myself?" Do we get him on the phone?
Mike, have you tried calling in?
Maybe he can't hear us either.
I think that is an issue.
All right.
Let's send a chat message to him.
Can you hear me now, Kristin?
I can see his
Can you hear
lips
me now?
moving.
Can
I
you hear me?
His
cannot.
lips moving,
No.
we can't hear him at all. And so he's on the Zoom. And so curious, I'm going to send him the number and
844-967-2789 is the number to call if you want to call once we get Mike on the phone, which we will just momentarily here. If you have questions about your lineup, if you have questions about your life, that is what this segment is all about here on As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin Brey, waiting again to connect with Dr. Mike McCutcheon, who is in Colorado. I've got some great sports songs.
Some sports songs that we need to play, be able to.
Especially for Dr. Mike.
So then the next question, I'm just going to keep reading the questions and we can come back to them. But the other question that we have in queue is, hey, Dr. Michael, I'm struggling to get a new business idea off the ground. I'm starting to get discouraged by how long everything is taking. And today I had a total meltdown because of it. My question is this: how do you build something you believe in while having patience and not beating yourself up because it's not where you want it to be? I certainly identify with that question. Can you hear us now, Dr. Mike?
Hey, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, there's a lot of feedback right now. Oh, there we go.
Well, I brought him down.
There we go. All right. So did you hear the life career question?
Getting lots of feedback there.
I did hear it.
I did hear it. Well, maybe I can turn my video off and just go first after the studio.
These things happen.
These things do happen. This is
happen.
the beauty of live radio. Sometimes the technology does not work.
Not exactly the way we want.
No, but that's okay.
Let me disconnect him and have him call back in one more time. I'll bring up his. Well, that sounds better. Mike, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
We can now hear you. Great. All right, we got you. All right, so let's go to the life and career question. I'm going to repeat that. So, hey, Dr. Michael, I'm struggling to get a new business idea off the ground. I'm starting to get discouraged by how long everything is taking, and today I had a total meltdown because of it. My question is this: how do you build something you believe in while having patience and not beating yourself up because it's not where you want it to be?
This, but it truly is a marathon and not a sprint. So remember each day why you're in this, and to keep people close to you who encourage you and support you, like you do for me, and Jane does for you, right? Keep people around you who remind you of the big picture. And then that might be to say, being grateful for the wins you have along the way. Having checked in, there's a reason why for somebody else all the time. They have, 3 or 6 month updates, so they have weekly one-to-ones, and they want to know what's going well, what's not going well. Do that for yourself, or find somebody else who's also working on something. You can actually check in and say, here's what I'm upset about, here's what's going so slowly, here's what's not working. That's totally fine to have that outlet. But also, what is going well? What have you accomplished? If we only look, for example, if we want to lose 30 pounds and we're annoyed because we've only lost 3 or 4. If we only look at what we haven't lost, we only look at those 27 pounds we haven't lost. That's a hard row to hoe there. But if we look at what we did this week and what we have done, those are the things that are going to motivate us. So keep people around you who are positive, check in with them often, do self-inventory, do group inventory, do all the things you can possibly do. Just make sure that you keep the big picture in mind, because you didn't get into this state probably just because you wanted a quick fix, or you wanted some, easy, fast, sort of a, quick gratification. If this is a big thing that's important to you, treat it as such. And so, have some gratitude, have some people around you, and give yourself some self-compassion and some time.
And it's important too, Dr. Mike, isn't it, to make sure, don't be hanging around people who are going to be comparing themselves or comparing your success to their success.
Well, you're so right about that. And a lot of times, Jane, I find that when people say to you, if you have a friend or a sibling or somebody in your life, a coworker, somebody who's like doubting you, sort of saying, yeah, it does look hard, or I don't know how you could do that, or whatnot. Jane, am I right? They're not talking about you. They're talking about themselves.
Absolutely.
Aren't they? They're saying, I couldn't do it. I would be too scared. I wouldn't have the strength to go on in this. And so they throw all that crap onto you, right? They say to you, I I don't have the strength to go and run a marathon that you could go run. And so they say to you, you should probably quit, and they'll be negative. But again, that has more to do with them than it has to do with you. If you pick up on any of that stuff, that is not the person you should be checking in with.
All right. Question number 2. When you have a loved one who's going through a really hard time, let's say a breakup, feeling lost in their career, depressed, what's the best way to support them? What's the balance between listening and just letting them feel their feelings, but also giving them tough love and helping them move on to the next thing?
Great question. First thing you can do, Kristin, is I would say you ask, right? You listen and you ask, what is going on? How are you feeling? And I guess more to the point of what this caller or what this writer is asking us is, what do you need? We make these mistakes a lot in all kinds of areas of our life. We think we know what a community needs, and so we go and try to do that ourselves. Or we do this politically, right? A country will go into another country and try to go, quote unquote, solve a problem that the rich country thinks should be solved, right? As opposed to asking the people who live in this country, what do you need from us? We can learn a lot from those things in our personal lives as well. So I would say the most important thing is, yes, to listen, and then to ask, what do you need from me? Are you just trying to vent? Are you trying to problem solve? Do you want to fix this relationship? Do you want to get back together? Do you want to move on? Do you want some tough love from me? What do you need from me, right? And then when that person tells you that, that's when you can sort of say, hey, I'm giving you what you want, right? If you only ask me to listen, I'm not going to give you any answers. If you did ask me to sort of brainstorm with you or to give you some tough love and say, hey, don't call that guy again. You said you never wanted to call him again, and you want me to call you out on that and hold your feet to the fire a little bit. Well, then great. You've empowered me, and you can remind them of that. But first, you have to ask them, what kind of support do you need from me right now? And then you can have a much easier time trying to navigate exactly what it is that would be, that would make a successful sort of a friendship and support there.
That is very great advice. All right, let's go. I think we have some football questions on the text line. Oh, no text line? Oh, I thought you said you have football bumps. All right. Well, I have a football question because so I won my last week I won, but what changes should I make to my lineup this week, Mike?
Well, congratulations, you won. So good. We did well. How much did you win back? Was it a comfortable win?
It was. I think I won by like 30.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So good. Thank you for your help last week.
Sorry
to my friend Carol, who I beat.
Sorry, Carol, but all. Yeah, I'm glad we demolished Carol with all love and respect. So, was it anybody last week when you looked through your points? Did somebody look like they didn't really kind of carry their own weight, and somebody else went on the bench, and they may have done better? I know one person you have on your bench. I think you have Brandon Ayuk. Did Brandon Ayuk, the wide receiver, did he do better than somebody else you could have put in there, the wide receiver flex, or did everybody do the best they could have done?
It seems like, as far as comparing it to the projection, the person who really didn't live up to what we thought he was going to do was A.J. Brown, who's a Philadelphia wide receiver. He was projected at 25 points, and he only got 14 points. But then any of my wide receivers on the bench didn't get more than 14 points. So should I just leave him in place, or should I swap him out with someone?
I would leave A.J. Brown in place. He's a stud. That was his very first game on his brand new team. So maybe there's a little bit of growing pains there and try to figure that out. So I'll leave him in there. Because when he goes off, he's going to go off. But I guess the only thing I would say too is, like, looking at flex, I believe you have Cortland Sutton. The Broncos looked pretty bad, pretty anemic on offense, and Sutton got targets, but not a whole lot of points. So if you're feeling up to it, maybe before Sunday, I would say, see how your gut feels, see what the news outlets are saying, but potentially swap in Brandon Ayuk from your bench into Cortland Sutton in the flex. Either one of those. So that would be the one change. That said, Jane, I know that sports isn't your thing, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? 30-point win, woo!
I think apparently is very knowledgeable and knows what she's doing. That was an impressive victory.
Or I just
But
have
now-
a very good best friend running
to help you.
running my
that
team.
That too. There's no winning anything until the end of all of this, though, right? I mean, just because you won this last one, there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, so it's basically your record going into. It's just
Okay.
it's like the real football.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a question that we just got in that bridges the two, as far as what advice would you give for somebody who doesn't follow football closely and is still in a league for the social aspect? Where should I focus my attention first when setting a lineup?
Wow. That's a good question. Yeah, a lot of people just do this for fun. I think that's great. Just do it for fun. Enjoy yourself. That's great. But if you want to take it as an opportunity to win, which, I mean, I think we all look at winning is more fun than losing. So if you just want to focus on fun, that's great. But if you want to pick players who you know and who you like and who you'd like to follow, that's great. So if you're in Wisconsin, maybe, add one of these rookie wide receivers or A.J. Dillon or somebody fun like that, or Rodgers that you actually want to root for. You can root for them double, you can root for them after snap, and can root for them for your fantasy team. The other thing I would say, if you want to learn a little bit more and have somebody tell you, hey, this is like what you should be looking out for, and here's some teams you might tune into a quick little podcast. There's a great podcast I love. It's called Fantasy Football Today in 5. That's because it's a 5-minute rundown of things you might want to know. So everybody has 5 minutes in their day. You can find that, wherever. I think it's on Spotify. Another one that my
All right,
my
we gotta
guy,
go. Mike, we gotta go break. We're gonna try to get you back on the Facebook. This is As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin Brey.
Mental health challenges impact us all in some way. Milwaukee County Behavioral Health Services is working hard to meet these challenges, ushering a new model of mental health care, redesigned with you in mind. This community-based system meets people where they're at, with culturally competent services, better access, and no wrong doors to begin the journey. Milwaukee County Behavioral Health Services, here for you, close to home. If you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health emergency, contact 414-257-7222.
The real estate market in Dane County
Have
and
him call
surrounding
again.
areas has been a bit of a hot mess this year. Listings are being picked off above asking prices and without the home inspection
Why?
contingencies. I'm Todd Osborne, owner of Orion Inspection.
I don't
If were
understand
the
that.
Home inspector, you'll cringe a little if any of my friends or family tried to buy
Can you
a
hear me
home
at all
without
right
home
now?
inspection.
No, can't hear me.
Hard look at that house before you sign. Want to know more? I'm here to help. OrionInspections.com. That's Orion, like the constellation, inspections.com.
Hi, everyone. Listen to my show, The Matt McNeil Show, weekday afternoons at 3 p.m.
We normally do.
Say again.
Is there anything on your side that needs to be turned up that we normally have?
The setup was the same as I do it every day.
Can you hear me anything now?
Is he back?
I
Nothing?
can't. No.
And
As
he's
soon as
got-
I can hear you, Mike, I'll let you know that I can hear you.
Okay. Let me try one more thing. Microphone. This thing.
You look great.
We got
Thank
30
you.
seconds.
We have 30 seconds.
Should I just call you back, Jane?
Otherwise,
Should I just
call
call you
back
back?
on your on your phone though to the main line.
Yep.
You can keep your camera on so then we can still. Oh, okay.
I just didn't know if. Yeah.
South winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Lows level off around 60. Tonight, partly cloudy skies. A mix of clouds and sun. Tomorrow, high temperatures reach up to 81. Chance for scattered showers Saturday. Chance for scattered storms on Sunday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 70 degrees.
Your sports team is vastly inferior. That simple fact is plainly obvious to see. We're gonna kick your collective posterior. Of course you realize we're speaking figuratively. Our stats are thoroughly impressive. Our coach really has the might of Slash. Our players are fast.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin Brey. This is our segment, our weekly segment. Dr. Mike fixes your life and your lineup, where my best friend, who is a a psychologist, and has his doctorate in psychology, but is also a very, very good fantasy football player, answers your questions. And so we have a dating question. I went on a date with a guy who has pretty different politics than I do. I didn't used to care about significant others' political alignment, but now I don't know if it's because I'm more in tune with politics or if it's because of the shift of different parties and how partisan everything feels. But in general, it feels more divisive and seems like different core values between the parties. And so is that a sign that this person and I have different core values in general, and it may not work out?
It's a great question. A lot of people are facing that, and your writer is so correct that things are very, divisive these days. So yeah, it is a sign that things might not work out. But I would recommend not necessarily just writing somebody off immediately. You wouldn't want to be written off immediately just because of a couple of things that you believe or who you vote for or whatnot. You'd want to be seen probably as a whole person. So try to do unto others in that way. And I just think that we keep saying this thing, right, Kristin, over and over again. We need to listen to each other. We can't just yell at each other and have all these Twitter wars or people on each other's, Facebook pages and yelling at each other. This is an opportunity to have conversation and to listen to each other in real life, right? Not just online. So one thing that I try to remember in my life, can't always do it, is the sort of like the idea that when you think of something as quote unquote an issue or a problem, it's probably best to sort of rethink about that as an opportunity. This is not an issue or a problem between the two of you. It's an opportunity to listen, to speak your mind and hear somebody else's. And frankly, as far as just the individual is concerned, to maybe get to know them a little bit better. Where are they coming from? Where do those beliefs, come from, and how do they get formed? So if you are interested in this person, which it sounds like you're interested enough to ask us about it, and there must be something special about them, then I would say I think this is an opportunity to dig a little bit deeper and get to know more about them. Plenty of people have different religions from different parts of the country and all sorts of things, and they have wonderful, long-term, beautiful marriages that work out very, very well. And some people don't get along. But I would recommend at least giving it a shot and seeing it as an opportunity and not a problem.
Great. Anything coming in on the text line? All right. So then I think there's a fact or fiction. So some football assumptions. And then I also, before we leave, I want to get your input on this whole Brett Favre thing. But all right, fact or fiction. I should trade wide receiver CeeDee Lamb from my fantasy team immediately because Dak Prescott is injured.
Oh, wow. That is fiction. You should not trade him immediately. Not just in this instance, but in a lot of ways. Fantasy leagues are sort of like the stock market, right? When the stock is low, you want to get rid of that stock. You want to get rid of it. But that's what your instinct is saying is not correct. You should hold on to it and wait till it's high. So if you want to trade CD, wait till he has a good week. He will. He's fantastic. Dak will come back. We'll have a good week, without him. When his stock is high, then get rid of him and you can get somebody for him. As of right now, if I know these leagues as well as I think that I do, you picked CD in the first or second or third round, you have to hold on to him. You paid too much for him. So hold him out and see how he works out. Otherwise, trade him into stocks.
Actually, we're going to talk about thumbs later. That's Dak Prescott hurt his thumb.
Thumbs are critical.
He probably can't text right now.
Critical to life.
All right, fact or fiction? The lowly Cleveland Browns will beat the New York Jets this week and start off 2-0, and the Browns will cover the 6-point spread and win by a touchdown.
Wow. That is fact and fiction. The Browns will win this week against the New York Jets, the even lowlier New York Jets. They will win. The Jets have a backup quarterback, and they stink. They stink in offense. They stink on defense. Uniforms are ugly. They stink, Jane. They stink. They're just terrible. So
with you on the uniforms, Dr. Mike. Absolutely.
I knew I'd get you. So yeah, I just know they're good. But the Browns are the Browns, right? So either they're going to have to sneak by at the very, very end to win by just a little bit, or they'll have a big lead and they'll almost lose it and it'll dwindle at the end. So the Browns will win, but they won't win by more than 6. I don't think.
All right. Final fact or fiction, the Green Bay Packers are doomed for the rest of the season and will not win the NFC North.
Oh my gosh. Capital F. Fiction. Absolute fiction. This is what the Packers do. Last year, they lost by, I think, 300 points on opening week, something like that. It was pretty terrible. It was ugly. It looked like me throwing the ball to Jane and us both like going to get happy hour instead of trying to work. It was terrible. They just looked like a hot mess. This is what they do. They start off slow. Their coach has been 13-3 or 13-4 in the regular season every single year. They're going to win. And so I guess the only team that's probably going to give them a hard time is the Vikings. But push comes to shove, my money's on Green Bay for at least a piece of that NFC North title.
All right, now this is my personal question because it's where we started the show today. Do you think Brett Favre will just continue to be able to keep his contracts and be a pundit, even though he has defrauded the people of Mississippi?
I think he will keep some of them. Yeah, I'm sorry to say. I'd have to be the bearer of bad news. But, I mean, Urban Meyer went through a lot of drama in the offseason for having one of the worst starts ever. He had 1-10. He flirted with a girl on camera, like, you know, the same hometown where his wife was or something. He kicked one of his players. He talked all the trash, and he got fired. And turn on your TV this weekend. He will be there on Saturday afternoon on Fox commentating and making a lot of money for it. So I don't think Brett Favre is going anywhere. He is probably more beloved than Urban Meyer is anyway. So, yeah, some people will be mad at him. But it's that thing in public life, Kristin. People have to have a little bit of time, and they go away and they hide for a while, and they come back, and, you know, he'll be just fine, I think. Sorry to break that news.
It's just so unjust that there does seem to be this wide category of people who are pretty much untouchable no matter what they do. Right. Whatever.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Well, how'd you do in your leagues last weekend?
So great. I felt great because I was like, I can't believe I'm on the air talking about these things. And what if I just like go 0 for 5 or 6 this week? That'd be terrible. But yeah, won a couple of leagues, felt really good about it. Wiped my friends' noses in it. You know, some people are paying for subscriptions to do it. You don't have to pay for anything. Just tune into As Goes Wisconsin. Listen to us. Make that free money, people. Come on. Even Jane's going to get on the action in the next couple of months. I'm going to get her to go in there. We're gonna retire early, Jane. You and me.
All right. Well, this has been Dr. Mike Fixes Your Life and Your Lineup. Come back next week to see how we fared in our games, and we'll answer your questions. Thank you so much for being here, buddy.
It's always a pleasure. Bye to you both. Have a great week.
All right, we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, it'll still be As Goes Wisconsin.
Really great. In contrast, you really suck. Okay, full disclosure, we're not that great, but nevertheless, you suck. Your sports team suffers with defeat, but carries backed up by empirical